Hello everyone, how are you doing today? So in our series where we discuss interesting things about France, things that are important for life in Paris, particularly if you're planning to move here, today we are going to be discussing mice. And the fact that Parisians seem to be perfectly okay with mice being everywhere. So as many of you know, I moved to France from Washington, D.C. And Washington, D.C. I always considered was the land of the rat, right? Like, Washington, D.C., the rats were like the size of dogs, right? And it was a truly stressful experience to always be avoiding the rats. But the one thing that you knew is that if rats were found like in the grocery store or, for example, in the food section of the Target, they would shut that area down until that whole situation was dealt with. And the thing is, I kind of thought that that's how basically everywhere worked. Like in New York, how they say if a restaurant doesn't have a AA rating, that basically means there are rats and you need to like avoid it and never eat there. And I'll never forget once I was in this super nice grocery store and I was in the cheese section and I was looking in the window, looking inside, like trying to decide what cheese I wanted, and out of the corner of my eye, I thought I saw something moving, and I thought, no, Adriel, that can't be a mouse walking around this grocery store at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, but something told me, just turn, because it is in fact a mouse, and I did, and it was there, and it was walking around, and another patron, he goes, sir, you know, there is a mouse there, and the employee goes, sir, this is Paris, there are rats. And I was like, no, this is not acceptable. I had a restaurant owner tell me that every single restaurant in Paris has rats in it, and she was like, don't eat salads. I see people feed them in the metro, like people are like, they see the rats, the little mice walking around in the metro, and they're like, oh look, it's a little mouse, it's a little mouse, and like people come together and they start leaving food, and I'm like, why are we feeding them the rats, you know? And also, they are in every single park. I mean, every single park. It's why you have to be super careful when you are sitting on the grass in the park, because you can be sitting on the grass thinking you're about to have this cute little picnic with, you know, your friends or whatever, and then all of a sudden you might look behind you and the bushes are rustling because a couple of Mr. Rat and his friends are coming out to see like what's going on, and these mice are not afraid of us at all. Like it's just like they feel very comfortable with the residents of the city, and the residents of the city feel very comfortable with them. I'm gonna be frank, I do not understand this. I do not understand this symbiotic relationship that everybody is just like cool with the mice walking around. Now, does this mean the city isn't doing anything about them? No, this does not. You will see these big black boxes all over the place. These big black boxes are meant to, you know, frankly, catch mice. You will see them all over the parks, like in the bushes and stuff like that. You know, they are everywhere. But I can tell you there is a park that is relatively close to, actually not relatively close, it is directly next to Shakespeare & Co. And every about 6 months or so, they close this park and they put a little sign that says like closed for like renovation or whatever. That's not why that park is closed. That park is closed because the rat infestation. At night, in that park, after they close all the parks at night, I have watched the rats like playing. Like I've seen them jumping and playing all around with each other. And that park is full of those black boxes, but yet you know, mice reproduce at an astronomical rate. So I just think they like sometimes have to close the park and deal with like a real like abatement as a result of the rats. Now, with that being said, this is public spaces. People do not want rats in their apartment buildings. And I have to tell you is that when they get into a bâtiment, it becomes a war, because it is hard to get those things out, because these buildings, a lot of them, you know, are 100 years old. And so there are a zillion places where they can get into, they can hide, they can reproduce, etc., etc. I will never forget once I was in Leroy Merlin, which is kind of a like hardware store essentially in France, and I was talking to this girl and she was just like talking to one of the salespeople because she was like, yeah, you know, there are mice in my apartment building and we cannot get them out. Now, if there are mice in your apartment, your landlord is supposed to do something about it. But a lot of times, those things, one, they're resilient. There are a lot of places for them to hide in these old buildings. But two, sometimes the landlords will like deny. They'll be like, oh no, like I sent someone there, an exterminator, and the exterminator didn't see anybody. Or three, they'll be nice and accommodating and they will send the exterminator, but the exterminator just like, they can't, like, the mice will be gone for a little while and then they'll be back. And she was just, we were talking and trying to strategize about like what products would be most effective at helping her get rid of these. And ultimately what another friend of mine said who dealt with mice and rats in their apartment building is that they ended up getting 2 cats. They got 2 cats and those 2 cats rid the whole building of mice. And generally the people I know who have had the most success at, one, not having rats in their building, or two, if they get mice in their building, the mice don't stay or they get rid of them, is because people in the building have cats. So what's the takeaway if you're planning to live here, move here, etc.? One, when looking for an apartment, be incredibly like mindful of where the trash is kept in the building, right? And look out for any signs that there might be mice in the building. Like look out for traps, anything like that, like anything that might give you even the slightest indication that they're mice. One of the things is that because in our buildings, a lot of times like some buildings don't have like a very clearly designated space for the trash, or the trash is just kind of in the middle of the courtyard, that can attract mice, right? So you have to be aware of like how your building is maintained to make sure you don't have any mice or there's like a mouse problem in the building. Also, be on the lookout for those black boxes. While those black boxes aren't necessarily an indication that there are mice in the building, right? They are also a preventative measure. It's still, you still want to see, like, if there are a bunch of black boxes all over the place, you may want to ask, like, is there a mouse problem in this building? Second thing to kind of keep in mind if you're planning to live here or even visit is that you are going to see mice everywhere. I want you to prepare yourself for that because you just need to prepare yourself. You're going to see them everywhere. As I mentioned, they are going to be at parks. So for me, for example, at parks, I don't sit near the bushes because they are definitely up in the bushes. I was once laying down in a park and was just like relaxing, like la-di-da-di-da. And then I hear the girls like not too far from me go, ah! And I opened my eyes and it was because this big rat had come out of the bushes in between the two of us. Y'all, I packed up my stuff so quickly. So I am a big believer of now, I like stay like in, I'm in like the most center area and there are a lot of people behind me and around me and whatever else. Just be really, really mindful. There are some parks where they just have a lot more rats than other parks. So also kind of be careful of that, but definitely do not put up your little resting spot anywhere near the bushes because generally those babies are just living their best life in the bushes. Also, always make sure you like really clean up after yourself at the parks, right? Because again, it's like all of the extra food and any junk lying around that they're able to feed on and enjoy. And the third thing to keep in mind if you're planning to come to Paris, particularly planning to move here, is that you may want to consider a cat. You may. I'm not a cat person. I've never really been a cat person, but now that I understand the level of the mice in the city, you know what, baby? I'm okay with cats. I made friends with all my neighbors' cats. Yes, 100%. I'll give you some little bonbons. I'll give you some candies because I want you to defend the building. You may need to invest in a cat. If the situation gets out of control, you may need to invest in a cat. And last but not least, if you ever find yourself in a situation where you have mice in your apartment, be super aggressive with your landlord. Like, don't let it slide. You know, really take video, because video is what's more powerful in France than photos. So take video of any droppings, video of you hearing sounds, anything like that. And then if your landlord doesn't do anything about it, you can go to the mairie and you can speak to what's called the conciliateur de justice. And their job is to mediate disputes between the tenant and the landlord. So definitely 110%, if you are having issues and you find yourself an apartment and it does have a mice problem, 100% be on top of your landlord. And if they don't do anything about it within like a couple weeks, you want to start that process like at your local mairie, at your town hall, and start that process with the conciliateur de justice, because it's not going to get better. It's only going to get worse, and you really have to like stay on top of it. Getting mice out of these buildings is no joke. Like, once they're in, it becomes a whole thing to get them out. Like, a whole thing. And some people in the building aren't as invested in getting them out, because some people in the building are like, oh, they're just so cute, they're mice, and then they will like be feeding them and stuff like that. So if you ever find yourself in a position like that, you need to be super aggressive. So with that said, I hope you have enjoyed this video on a not so pleasant topic, but also a useful one to know, particularly if you're planning to move to France and even if you're going to be visiting. So let a homegirl know if you have a video suggestion that you want for things you need to know about living in Paris. Definitely let me know and I will make sure to do a video on that topic. Otherwise, stay tuned next month, because we're going to be talking about more tips on things you need to know if you're planning to move to Paris and live here. All right, talk to you later. Bye!